The recent flare-up between India and Pakistan has once again cast a long shadow over South Asia. The specter of nuclear conflict, though seemingly distant, lurks in the background. This is not a new phenomenon. The two nations have been locked in a tense standoff for decades, punctuated by periods of open hostility. However, the latest escalation carries with it a heightened sense of urgency. The use of military force by both sides, coupled with thinly veiled nuclear threats, has raised the stakes considerably. This has profound implications not just for India and Pakistan but for the wider region, particularly China. The immediate trigger for the current crisis was a terrorist attack in the Indian-administered region of Jammu and Kashmir. This attack, which took place in a highly sensitive and already volatile area, sent shockwaves through the region and beyond. Attributed to Pakistan-based militants, the attack in Pahalgam on May 3, 2025, resulted in significant casualties and provoked outrage in India. The attack was one of the deadliest in recent years, leading to a surge in anti-Pakistan sentiment across the country. In response, India launched Operation Sindoor on May 7. This operation was meticulously planned and executed, showcasing India's military prowess and its determination to combat terrorism. This operation, utilizing a combination of airstrikes and drone attacks, targeted what India claimed were terrorist training camps located within Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Pakistani Punjab. The precision and scale of these strikes were unprecedented, aiming to dismantle the infrastructure supporting militant activities. India's use of 25 kamikaze drones against logistical and non-strategic infrastructure on May 8 marked an escalation in the conflict. These drones, equipped with advanced technology, were able to inflict significant damage on their targets, further intensifying the situation. Pakistan, denying any involvement in the Pahalgam attack, responded swiftly and forcefully. The Pakistani government condemned the Indian strikes, calling them an act of aggression and vowing to defend its sovereignty. On May 9, Pakistan launched retaliatory airstrikes against multiple locations in Indian-administered Kashmir, utilizing a combination of Fateh missiles and combat drones. These strikes were aimed at key military installations and were intended to send a strong message to India. This marked the first time since the 1999 Kargil conflict that both countries had conducted airstrikes against each other's territory. The echoes of past conflicts were unmistakable, and the international community watched with bated breath. The situation threatened to spiral out of control, with both sides exchanging artillery fire across the line of control, the de facto border in Kashmir. The intensity of the exchanges raised fears of a full-scale war. A fragile ceasefire brokered by the United States came into effect on May 10th. The ceasefire was a result of intense diplomatic efforts and was seen as a crucial step to prevent further escalation. However, the underlying tensions remain. The ceasefire, while providing temporary relief, did little to address the root causes of the conflict. The situation is volatile, and the risk of further escalation cannot be discounted. Both nations continue to maintain a high level of military readiness, and the region remains on edge, with the potential for renewed hostilities ever present. Pakistan's nuclear posture is often described as one of full-spectrum deterrence, a strategy that aims to cover all spectrums of conflict. This doctrine, unlike India's no-first-use policy, lowers the threshold for nuclear use, making it more flexible and potentially more dangerous. It suggests that Pakistan might consider using nuclear weapons in response to a range of threats, including a conventional attack that it believes could lead to the loss of territory or the collapse of its government. This broad interpretation of threats makes the situation highly volatile. In response to Operation Sindoor, there were unconfirmed reports of an emergency meeting of Pakistan's National Command Authority, the body responsible for the country's nuclear arsenal. Such meetings are often shrouded in secrecy, adding to the tension and uncertainty. This, coupled with statements from Pakistani officials warning of the potential for unintended consequences, has been interpreted by some analysts as nuclear signaling. These signals are meant to convey Pakistan's readiness to escalate if necessary. While Pakistan has denied any such intent, the very fact that nuclear weapons are being injected into the discourse is a cause for concern. The ambiguity surrounding these statements only heightens the anxiety. It highlights the dangerous game of brinkmanship that both countries are engaged in. This delicate balance of power teetering on the edge of conflict underscores the fragile peace in the region. India, for its part, has declared that it will not be cowed by nuclear blackmail. In the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi delivered a strongly worded address to the nation. He asserted that India had adopted a new policy towards terrorism, one that involved taking preemptive action against terrorist groups operating from across the border. This represents a significant shift in India's strategic calculus. It suggests a willingness to escalate militarily, even at the risk of provoking a wider conflict. Modi's statement that India would no longer tolerate terrorist camps, particularly those operating under the protection of a nuclear umbrella, has been interpreted as a direct challenge to Pakistan. India's more assertive posture, while popular domestically, has done little to ease regional tensions. On the contrary, it has heightened anxieties about the potential for miscalculation and escalation. Nuclear arsenals, a looming threat. Both India and Pakistan possess a formidable nuclear arsenal. Estimates suggest that India has around 170 nuclear warheads, while Pakistan has a similar number. Both countries are also actively engaged in expanding and modernizing their nuclear forces. Pakistan in particular is believed to be increasing the size of its arsenal at a rapid pace. It is estimated that Pakistan could possess as many as 200 warheads by the late 2020s. India too has the capacity to significantly increase its nuclear stockpile. The development of new delivery systems including ballistic missiles, cruise missiles and even tactical nuclear weapons further complicates the situation. The increasing sophistication and reach of these weapons make the prospect of a nuclear exchange, whether intentional or accidental, all the more alarming. The escalating tensions between India and Pakistan present a significant challenge for China. The situation is a delicate balancing act for Beijing, which must navigate its relationships with both nations carefully. As a close ally of Pakistan and a rising power in the region, China has a vested interest in maintaining stability in South Asia. The economic and strategic ties between China and Pakistan are deep-rooted, making any instability in the region a significant concern for Beijing. However, China also has its own complex relationship with India, marked by both cooperation and competition. The two countries share a long border and have a history of both conflict and collaboration, making the situation even more intricate. The recent conflict has put China in a difficult position. Beijing must weigh its support for Pakistan against the potential fallout of alienating India, a major economic partner and regional power. On the one hand, China is obligated to support its long-standing ally, Pakistan. This alliance has been a cornerstone of China's foreign policy in South Asia for decades. This is particularly true given the substantial economic and strategic investments China has made in Pakistan in recent years, most notably the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The CPEC is a flagship project under China's Belt and Road Initiative, aimed at enhancing regional connectivity. On the other hand, China recognizes that a full-blown conflict between India and Pakistan would be disastrous for the entire region, including for China's own interests. Such a conflict would disrupt trade routes, destabilize the region, and potentially draw in other global powers. A nuclear exchange, however improbable, would have catastrophic consequences, not just for South Asia, but for the world. The stakes are incredibly high, and China must tread carefully to avoid exacerbating the situation while protecting its own strategic interests. The current crisis has also exposed the limitations of nuclear deterrence. For decades, the prevailing assumption has been that the possession of nuclear weapons by both India and Pakistan would serve as a deterrent against major conflict. The logic being that the fear of mutually assured destruction would prevent either side from contemplating the use of such weapons. However, the recent events suggest that this logic may not hold. The fact that both sides were willing to engage in military action, despite the nuclear overhang, raises serious questions about the effectiveness of deterrence. Furthermore, the risk of accidental or unauthorized use of nuclear weapons cannot be discounted. The fog of war, coupled with the compressed decision-making timelines inherent in a nuclear crisis, increases the likelihood of miscalculation or misinterpretation, potentially leading to unintended escalation. The future of nuclear proliferation in South Asia remains uncertain. Both India and Pakistan show no signs of slowing down their nuclear modernization programs. The international community has a vital role to play in promoting dialogue and confidence-building measures between the two countries. Efforts to strengthen the existing arms control mechanisms, such as the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, are crucial. However, the prospects for meaningful arms control in the current climate appear dim. The deep-seated mistrust between India and Pakistan, coupled with the lack of political will on both sides, makes it unlikely that any significant progress will be made in the near future. The recent crisis between India and Pakistan is a stark reminder of the ever-present danger of nuclear conflict in South Asia. The use of military force, coupled with irresponsible nuclear rhetoric, has brought the region perilously close to the brink. China, as a major stakeholder in the region, has a critical role to play in diffusing tensions and promoting dialogue. The international community must also exert sustained pressure on both India and Pakistan to engage in meaningful arms control negotiations. The alternative is too grim to contemplate.